Brought to you by 1AAuto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet.
Hi, I'm Mike from 1AAuto. I hope this how-to video helps you out. And next time you need parts for your vehicle, think of 1AAuto.com. Thanks.
In this video, we're going to show you how to replace an alternator on this 2003 Ford. This vehicle has the 2-liter Zetec engine. The tools you'll need are jack and jack stands. You will need to raise up the vehicle and access the belt from underneath to get it off. 10mm socket with a ratchet extension. You'll need a flexible handle. A couple of the bolts are a little hard to get to, so you'll need a kind of a flexible handle to get into it. And a 15mm wrench, a pipe for some extra leverage, flat blade screwdriver, and a 7mm socket. And you don't have to remove the belt fully, but if you change your belt, or if you take the belt all the way off, or it just kind of slips off and you want to know how to get it back together, this is the diagram for it.
10mm socket, loosen up your negative battery cable and disconnect it. Looking at the passenger side of the engine compartment, there's a 10mm bolt right in here. Use a wrench, socket, and extension. Okay, if you look back in here, you'll see a little clip. What you want to do is get a screwdriver down here, pry out on the water bottle a little bit, lift it up, and then off. Okay, pull these out of the clip. I'm going to move your water bottle out of the way. And then right here is your power steering reservoir. Lift that up and move it out of the way as well. Okay, looking up from underneath, you'll find 2 bolts that hold this cover on. They're 10mm as well.
Now I'll just fast forward here as I remove those 2 10mm bolts.
If you look right up in here, this is your belt tensioner. Put a 15mm wrench on there. I like to use a nice big piece of pipe. Helps you get some extra leverage. Okay, and as you go clockwise on that, it actually loosens up the belt, and you can pull the belt off of your AC compressor down here. Slowly let your wrench go.
Now reach in, pull the belt off the alternator pulley, and push it down out of your way.
Okay, we still need to create a little more room here. We're going to undo the bolt here that holds the bracket for this wiring harness. We're going to switch to a 7mm socket and remove this right here.
Okay, sorry about the angle there. We're kind of removing it. Looks sort of like a round solenoid on the back firewall. 2 7mm bolts hold it in place. Remove that, and then you can move it over towards the middle of the car to get it out of the way.
Okay, so you can see our alternator right here. It's held in by a 10mm bolt over here, and I can't really film it, but there's a 10mm bolt basically opposite that, back towards the back of the car.
Okay, for the front one, I'm able to go down in there with just a regular ratchet and socket, 10mm. Okay, and I loosen up that first bolt using some force. Actually, if you use your piece of pipe, put it on that ratchet, give yourself a little extra leverage, help get it loosened up. And first I just loosen that one up.
Okay, for that back one, it'll help to have a flexible handle, a little longer too, to get some leverage on it.
Okay, and I'm going to fast forward here. What I do is I take that flex handle and put it down in there. You need it flexible so it can kind of get around the pulley as well as get to the bolt. And generally what I have to do is turn it about 1/8 of a turn, and then I have to take it back out, reposition the socket on the handle, and then turn it another little bit of a turn until you get it going. And then once you get it out a certain distance, you can change over to your ratchet and get it out the rest of the way with the ratchet. And then once you have that one out, and when you pull it out, it'll come out, it'll hit the body of the car. If you just force it kind of down, you can get it down and out. And then once you have that one out, then you can turn your attention to the one that's very easy to see, put the ratchet on there, loosen it up, and take it right out.
Okay, now you want to reach in and pull your alternator up and out. Okay. And then...
Okay, as you saw, I was able to move it by hand. Sometimes you might need to use a crowbar or a large screwdriver and pry it a little bit to break it free. But then you want to just kind of pull it up and out a little bit.
Pull your alternator kind of up and out so you can easily see where the power wire goes in, and that is, by the looks, a 10mm nut. And then right here is where it connects, or the harness connects in to the alternator.
Okay, go in with a long screwdriver, kind of reposition the alternator. You want to be pressing on the side of that connector, and I'm going to pull up with my left hand, pressing on the side with the screwdriver and pulling up with my left hand and disconnecting that connector. I'm just going to fast forward here as I use a 10mm socket and a ratchet, reposition the alternator so you can get to that nut that holds the power wire on, and remove that power wire from the alternator. There's really no great angle to video it, so I'm just kind of fast forwarding through it.
Okay, now the challenge is to get the old alternator out and the new one back in. Try and move things out of the way, disconnect that harness. Okay, then we can pull this off of there. Okay, we'll want to disconnect this line, which I'm pinching in on this green tube, pushing that green clip up and out, and disconnecting that. Okay, now what you want to do is take these tubes, pretty much force them, bend them down below where the alternator is. Okay. The alternator back. Tight fit, but it comes up and out. Okay, new alternator from One Auto. Put it right down in basically the same way. Stuck in there. Once you get it down in, you're pretty successful. Okay, rotate it into place.
Okay, I'm going to kind of fast forward as we put everything back together. It's just a reverse of the procedure. Get the alternator down in there, kind of bend the tubes back up into their correct position, reconnect the lead, and then reconnect the power wire and tighten up the 10mm nut that holds that in place. And continue to fast forward, work the alternator into place. Could be a little difficult sometimes, but work it into place. Start the easy bolt first, the one you can see right easily at the engine. Start that one in first, and then start the other one that's on the back side. Again, you'll have to start with the head way down at the body and kind of angle it up in until you get it in. Then tighten those bolts up, and you can start putting the other stuff back up in the firewall where it belongs. Okay, put the green clip back on and reconnect the hose to that tube, and then put the item back on the firewall. Start those bolts in. Make sure you reconnect the wiring harness and put that harness clip back on where it belongs, and then be sure to tighten everything back up. Okay, if you did take your belt all the way off, you don't have to, but if you did, here's the belt diagram that'll help you get it back on there correctly.
Okay, so from the top, you can see we've got the belt pretty much forced down. We've got it on top of our alternator here, and we've got it on top of our power steering pump here, and below this idler pulley. Okay, so the belt comes down. You can take this loop, and you need to kind of twist it and force it up onto the water pump. Okay, then this loop comes down. You'll have to bypass your AC compressor for right now. Okay, put that onto the crank. Pull it as tight as you can. Okay, take your 15mm wrench again. Put your pipe on there. Loosen that tensioner. And pull your belt down. Make sure it's on there. Let it go. Okay. I already see one little problem here. It's not quite on my crank correctly.
Okay, I'm just going to fast forward here. Unfortunately, I don't do a good job of filming it, but just check your pulley. I noticed that it's one groove off on the crank, so I loosen it back up, take it off the AC compressor pulley, get it onto the crank pulley correctly, check all the rest of the pulleys, make sure it's on there right, and then put it back on again.
Okay, just confirm belts on the alternator well and on the power steering pump correctly.
Okay, and I'm going to continue to fast forward as I put that dust and rock shield back in place and use the two bolts, bolt it back in place, and you can see I'm using air tools now just to kind of get it done quickly. Okay, and just continue through, fast forward as I put that power steering reservoir back in place. It just kind of presses into place with the rubber grommets, and then put the coolant reservoir back in place and put the 10mm bolt in place to hold it. Okay, reconnect your negative battery cable and tighten it up.
Battery light goes out and it stays out.
We hope this helps you out. Brought to you by www.oneauto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet. Please feel free to call us toll-free 888-844-3393. We're the company that's here for you on the internet and in person.